Hey y'all,
Hey guys.
what's going on? Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, I'm Claude Trufant. This is my beautiful wife, Labria
Hey
Trufant.
guys, how are you?
Man, thank y'all so much for allowing us to be a part of y'all couples retreat and just to speak to y'all today, man. And we've been together for 15 years.
15 years.
Ooh, 15
and counting.
years.
In about 2 weeks, actually.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah.
Man, first I want to say, thank you, Ashlynn and Rickey, man. Y'all have really blessed us by allowing us just to speak to y'all on this morning. And also, I hope y'all save me a plate. If y'all don't save me a plate, that's going to be a problem.
This is my breakfast, and y'all having brunch, but we're drinking coffee. So we hope that you guys are enjoying your brunch.
But yeah, y'all, we just wanted to show y'all just a quick little story about us, and hopefully give you some insight on, what marriage was like for us. And then we know everybody's marriage is different, everybody's relationship is different, whether you're in a long-term relationship or you're newly married or been married for a long time, hopefully you will see something that will help you in your relationship as long as that it has helped us, you know what I mean? So, where do we begin, man?
The beginning.
Well, yeah, the beginning, right? we got married back in 2005, in July 2005, and it was something, man. I'm gonna say we planned for a wedding, but she did the whole thing. Does that make sense? Right?
Actually, let's get that corrected. We planned for a wedding, but our families planned this whole wedding. It really wasn't us.
Yeah,
it was what our families wanted in a situation. So let that be truthful. And women, you understand. You know how that go. You're planning a wedding. Your mom, his mom, everybody has their opinions and what they think should happen. And that's exactly what happened in that first wedding. So you know how that goes.
But you got to think about it. Like we were talking the other day, and I think you were mentioning that that like for women, they've been planning weddings for the rest of their whole life.
Absolutely. So, ladies, so like as kids when we're growing up, right? So we automatically know what we want to do when it's time for us to get married, right? So we play bride when we're young. We have our friends, our teddy bears, whatever it may be, and we're playing that we're going to get married. We know that we want to marry whatever TV star that's out at the time that we think. For me, I'm not going to lie, it was Zach Morris from Save for the Bell. I just like Zach. I thought that I wanted to marry Zach, and you look nothing like Zach. But that's who I wanted to marry. But we knew, back then, even as kids, what we wanted in a marriage, right? So we knew the colors, we planned for the dress, we knew the decor, because that's what little girls do. That's what teenage girls do. When you think about marriage, you start to plan. Now, guys, on the other hand,
we don't care. I'm gonna be honest with you. Hey, look, as long as she shows up and I show up and we say I do, I don't care what the colors.
Just unbothered.
You can have a saran wrap party. I do not care, as long as when she show up and I show up and we both say I do, that's all that matters. Man, look, she was like, hey, go pick out a tux. Okay, whatever tux is going to fit, that's the one I'm going to get. She said, make sure it's these colors. Okay, if they have that color, then I'm going to get it. But other than that, the aesthetics of everything and the planning, if y'all know that, men, we like, we're really win the bachelor party, or something like that. But other than that, the planning, and most of the planning, the women are like, they're really engaged in it. And when you ask us, we're like, oh, babe, whatever it is you like, whatever goes your way. So that's the type of thing that, that goes on, especially when you begin a marriage. And what's crazy is that no one tells you or prepares you on what marriage life is going to be like, or long-term relationships.
So absolutely. So really what you saying that, like, I know one thing, like we take all of that energy, into planning for the one day, for planning for the wedding, right? So we want everything to go perfect. We want the perfect dress. We want the perfect cake. We want all the guests to show up. We want the food to be right? We want the music to be right. And especially like where we're from, New Orleans, right? So it's a big thing because the city is so cultural, right? And so music and food is a huge plus. So if you come to an event and your food is garbage, like they talking about you for real. So you want this to be the social event of the season. But all that planning, how much planning do you really put into worrying about the rest of your life, right? So you put planning into one day, the wedding. But how much planning do you actually put into the marriage? And that's what happens. Yeah. We don't think about that. We are only one-sided, right? So we think about that wedding day, and then right after the wedding is over, the marriage begins. And then what happens? We have no clue because nobody prepares. Nobody knows what to do. There is no handbook. It is pretty much just flying by the skirt of your chin. Really, is you really don't have anything that you can work from.
And just to give you guys a breakdown, so again, we're doing 15 years, right? So I would say we'll break it down into 5. So what happened with us, again, we got married in 2005. And so that first 5 years, we called it our dark place. That was the darkness part of our marriage. And I'm going to tell you why. It wasn't that everything was so horrible. It's just that the situations and circumstances around us affected us greatly. We got married in July of 2005, closing on a brand new house, just purchased brand new cars. The house that we were living in, we were about to move out of it, and we're closing, and then a month later, Hurricane Katrina happened, right? We lose all the house. We lose the new house we were closing on the week of Hurricane Katrina. It was completely destroyed. We were in a new city. We ended up evacuating to Shreveport, going through that whole ordeal, being homeless with 2 little bitty babies and jobless, carless, houseless. We were from having everything 1 month, getting married, and then the very next month we have nothing.
And not to mention, we were with 20 other family members.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't us, right? So we left New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina in the midst of everything, moving to Shreveport with 20 other people. So imagine that, right? So all different type of personalities, all different age people, and we're in this one house, 3-bedroom house with 20 people. Newlyweds with brand new kids.
And check this out. And the house that we were in, thank you, Lord, that that it was a house. We had a roof, but it had no hot water, no refrigerator, nothing. Right?
Not at all. So actually, one of the churches donated. So we had one refrigerator that the bottom worked, one refrigerator that the top worked, and everything else was just pieced together. Ridiculous. So imagine, right? So I'm like, oh my God, this is my first
one AC in the whole house, and this is August, and it was one AC, and it was in the living room, so everyone slept in the living room under the AC. I'm telling you, we go from high in being marriage to complete bottom a month later after we said I do. Can you possibly imagine the stress that was on our life? I'm talking
and there was
about
a lot of stress.
Man, we argued like cats and dogs. Like if she sneezed too hard, I was ready to go. Like I was done.
It's okay, because I actually told him he can go back to his mama. And if y'all ask her to this day, she will tell you I have this little running joke with her that I have a receipt, and I'm like, you can have him back because he's refundable. But all of that to say, the stress that we went through, not even 30 days later, beginning the marriage. So imagine if you don't even go through any stress, not to that capacity, right? But you're starting your marriage, right? And you have not realized exactly what is your role or how do you play a role, right? So within our first five years of marriage, that was really a dark place for us. Like he just explained to you. So we had Hurricane Katrina. We moved to Shreveport, was living with a family. We had to find somewhere to stay. We had to find new jobs. We had to put kids in school, figuring out what to do, all with no jobs and no sense of directions, but with God, because all we can do was pray. I know that sounds far-fetched, but y'all, I promise you, God was the center of everything that we did. Because even when we were going through Katrina and we thought we were going to die, all we can do is like, God, please, I just need you to give me direction. I need you to teach me. And that was actually the foundation of our relationship. Paul would tell you anytime that when we started talking again, one of the attributes that he actually liked about me was that I was grounded spiritually, right? He had dated so many other women, but when he found me, it was the missing piece of what he was looking for.
Correct.
So women, when you are looking to enter into a relationship, you have to first make sure, and not just women, men, you have to first make sure that you as an individual, you are ready. You are a whole person. You can't go into a marriage as a piece. First of all, it's not 100. I mean, it's not 50-50. It's really 100-100, but it comes together to make the whole, right? So if it's 50, that means you're still missing something else with that other 50. Or if he only has the 50, that means he's missing something.
Right.
He has to be a whole person. You have to be a whole person, and then you come together to make that whole. And I know the numbers may not make sense, but that's really how it goes.
And so if you guys look at it, like that first 5 years, man, we went through a lot, you know. And it was a lot of marital things, you know what I'm saying? We was two individual people trying to come together to be together, and we didn't know how to be together.
No.
You know what I'm saying? We were trying to learn and figure out who each other is really. Yeah, we have dated, and even if you've been in a long-term relationship, it's something different in your mind. Once you say I do, then it means something different. Why? Because having that agreement that we're going to come together and spend the rest of our life together, and it becomes official. Not saying that anything changes. What I'm saying is what changes is the status of your relationship. And some people don't realize that. You know what I mean? They just don't. And it took us a while to understand that. And so then we fight through that first 5 years, and then we go to our next 5 years. We would call it like what?
The building phase?
The building phase, right? So now we kind of figured out, you know, trying to get our ground. So now we're trying to realize, okay, what is it that we want to see ourselves do in the future? Who do we want to be?
Now, you must know, even statistically, right, that most people say that the first 5 years of marriage are hard. Mm-hmm. So that's why we particularly called it the dark time, because even within that first 5 years, it was so hard. Getting back on our feet, going through things, even within a marriage, like learning how to communicate with one another, learning how he operates, learning how I operate. Y'all, listen, I was a spoiled brat. When I tell you a spoiled brat was... Not anymore. Well, I kind of still am. But regardless to the fact, I was a spoiled brat. So I did not understand what it was to be a wife. When I entered into this marriage, right, I had 2 kids, right? I had lived with my grandmother. My family was pretty endowed. And so I was privileged, to be honest. So to struggle, there was no such thing. I knew nothing about struggling. On the other hand...
Me? Woo! Man, look, I grew up in projects, you hear me? So, you know, struggle was the norm. So I'm used to grinding it out, you know what I'm saying? And so when we get to our rough patch, like that dark side, right, I'm like, I'm good, right? And she's having a nervous breakdown, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? We good. She's like, no, you don't understand. And so we clashed a lot. So then when we get to that second phase, now we have gotten at least our foot on some foundation, right? We still haven't arrived, but we got our feet underneath us. And so now we're trying to figure out, okay, what is it that we're going to do? How is it that we're going to, you know, build upon our family? And like she said before, they said that, oh, the first 5 years is the hardest years. That's a lie. That's a lie, because you're going to have some years that they're going to be bliss, and then you're going to have some that's going to be like, man, if you don't get out my face,
right?
You're going to run through that. So nobody can tell you that, these years is going to be this or these years are going to be that. That is a lie, man. You're going to come up with there's something that's going to happen that you guys are going to run through a rough patch, but you have to remember that, guess what? We have a foundation together, and we can get through it. That's the key to marriage. Fighting together through the problems. We know problems are going to come. Just as we know that the sun is going to shine in the morning, or there will be some rain sometime. Guess what? When there's rain, we prepare with the umbrella. In our marriage, we have to prepare for that too. We got to come together as a common ground and say, hey, man, look, I understand this is what we're going through. Let's fight this thing together. Because if you fight it individually, that's where the problem comes in. You try to handle it your way, I try to handle it my way. We not talking to one another, and it seems like there is more problems to fix than there actually is, and when there isn't.
Right.
And so we started doing things like we came out plans. We started forecasting this. So we started doing what is called a vision board.
Right.
And this was when we really said, hey, what do we want to do in the next 2 years? What do we want to do in the next 5 years? And where do we see ourselves in the next 10 years? And literally, y'all, I ain't gonna lie to you, we wrote this down on a big old poster board.
Well, before you get to the vision board, let's talk about this, because I know we're going to start looking at vision and setting a vision, but I also feel like before you get to that vision stage, I think you need to understand what needs to happen to make each other happy, right? So you're talking about building a foundation, right, upon this second phase. Mm-hmm. So you're building the foundation. But within building that foundation, you have to figure out what makes you happy, what makes him happy. You can't depend on your spouse to make you happy. Right. He can't depend on you to make him happy. Wow. You have to figure out what makes you happy. So with that being said, you can't expect him to automatically know, oh, well, babe, I want you to send me flowers every week because that just brightens up my day. Or, oh, you know that little note that you used to write me when we were dating? I want you to do that. First of all, if he doesn't ever do that, does that mean that you're not going to be happy? Is that going to bring a negative shadow upon your relationship because he's not doing it? What will make you happy as a woman? What makes you happy as a man? If she never comes in the room with lingerie on and say, oh, babe, come on, it's that time. And you know what it means when she have on the lingerie. But if she doesn't, sir, what makes you happy? You know, so you have to figure that thing out. And once you are setting that foundation and you figure out what makes you tick and what makes you happy, then we can move to setting a vision, right? Because now you have, just like the words say, write the vision, make it plain. You have to write down your plan so you can understand what moves we're about to make. How are we going to be this power couple?
Right. And so, you know, just to piggyback a little bit off what she said, it is unfair to place happiness upon your spouse. It is unfair. It's not fair because I don't know the next joke to say to make you happy. But you know what makes you happy. And when you can do that, when you can find your own happiness, and then he finds his own happiness within himself, then two happy people could come together. Right?
Exactly.
I hope that makes sense. And so and so then you get to writing a vision. You must see yourself somewhere in the future doing better than you are presently. You have to. If not, then watch this. The Bible says the people will perish. People without vision, they perish. You have to see yourself together as a family. Kids, whether the kids are biologically yours or not, player, when you say I do, that is your babies. Period. You know what I'm saying? No matter if they say you ain't my daddy. I'm not, but I'm here now. Oh well, I ain't going nowhere. Because I guarantee you, you're going to impart into their life something that, guess what? Maybe the daddy is in their life and doing great things, but you're still there as a father figure, and you have to lead from example.
Same as the mother.
Same as the mother. You know, if he have kids coming into the relationship, guess what? They your kids now. You know what I'm saying?
Even if the baby mama crazy,
they still your kids.
You have to figure out a way to make it work. And if you can't, don't get me wrong. If you can't make it work, then you can't make it work.
Correct.
But at the end of the day, you as the wife and you as the husband is supposed to come together to make sure that the kids don't have a problem with blending the family.
Correct.
So that's all I have to say on that.
So then when we go to, we built the foundation, right? We came together. We started finding out, you know, what makes each other happy. What's our happy place and stuff like that. Then we started seeing a vision, writing down our goals. If we wanted to buy a car, if she wanted a particular outfit, if she wanted anything, go back to school, goals, objectives, if you want to make a certain amount a year, if you want to get that promotion, we wrote it all down and we hung it up in our closet, and every morning we had to go in the closet to get our clothes and shoes, and guess what? We saw our list. And lo and behold, the things that we wrote down, we started scratching off the list, y'all. I promise you, if you do that. And we do this till this day. In 2020, we did a vision board. And we do it every year. And you wouldn't be surprised of the stuff that we've scratched off just this year. Already. And so have a vision for your marriage. You know, you guys sit down and you have that vision, babe. This is what we want to do. What we want to do. We want to go on this vacation. We want to go here. We want to do this. We want to do that.
And talking about vision, so even with that, you can't make those plans without having a financial vision, right? So one thing, and I will give it to him, high five, right? So I told you guys that, you know, I was privileged and I was spoiled, absolutely was. So handling money was a bad thing for me. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, I can't beat him or he can't beat me with being frugal because I'm not just spending, I'm not wastefully spending, I'm just not going to do it. But when you are in a relationship, you have to figure out, come together to say, okay, we need to create a budget. We need to figure out what's going to happen because you can do everything you want to do in a relationship. You just have to budget that thing out. So say, for instance, whatever his income is, whatever my income is, we sit down, we put it together. All necessities, like your bills, everything that you need to pay, you know without a shadow of a doubt. You need lights, you need water, you need a car, you need gas, you need food. Cable, kind of iffy, depending on if you have a, you know, what's the stick thing? Fire stick. Or internet, absolutely necessary. But sit down and plan those things out. Then you also plan in, okay, for me, I have to have a massage or some type of spa day once a month. I'm doing it. I budget that into it. My nails done, my makeup, hair done, his haircut, whatever leisure things that we do, we budget that into it. So that way, because that's something that we want to do, we put it in the budget. Then when we look at how much money we have left, we budget money to go into a savings account. So now you have your set budget of the things that need to come out. You budget, okay, say for instance, if it takes me eating out for lunch and it's $150 every 2 weeks, then we budget that $150 every 2 weeks within that budget. So now you have no reason to go back into the main account because you've already budgeted what you needed for the time of that pay period.
Right.
Also, if you are looking to do vacations, like our friends was like, well, how do y'all get to do these things? Or what are you doing? We budget that stuff in. It's not that we're just so endowed or have so much money. We're financially stable, but we still budget that thing in. So that way we can make plans to do the things that we like to do.
Correct.
A lot of couples don't do that. They don't think about that. They just think, oh, well, when we get paid next week, we can go ahead and let's take this trip to Arkansas. Or, oh, we can go to Dallas, or let's plan to go to Jamaica. But if you budget this stuff in, y'all, you can see how much more stuff, date nights, different things you can do as a couple that will help your relationship. And the finances are vitally important. That's one of the main things that couples argue about all the time.
It's money. And when you tackle the money issue, then you will probably eliminate 25% of the problems that you may have.
Absolutely.
And so that's vitally important. So remember, coming together, having that foundation, building upon that foundation, setting out a plan, and writing your vision down and getting your financing in order. Budget everything. Make sure that you get to a strict budget. And then we come to where we're at now. These last 5 years is called the awakening. Now, why would we call it the awakening? Because, man, I promise you, we finally realized, and y'all think this crazy, COVID made us really realize when we came together and had to bunker down together our purpose.
Absolutely.
And I'm serious, y'all. It's been 15 years, and we've been going through the motion of getting things to where we wanted to be. And then when COVID happened, you know, people look at COVID as the end all be all, but then we saw like, man, this is one of the best things that happened to us.
Truly blessed.
Because we were able to come together and connect on the spiritual level. Remember, we was talking about connecting together, getting each other happy, getting the foundation, getting the finances, but then there is a spiritual aspect, and we know everyone is not as spiritual as everyone else. Everybody has their own thing. Some people don't believe at all. But for us, we have a spiritual foundation, and we finally, after all these years, remember, what connected me to her was her spirit, right? Her love for God. We just got back in March, right? To where we finally connected spiritually on a whole nother level that has taken us, far beyond we can ever believe or imagine.
And you got to understand, and I'm not saying we didn't have a relationship with God, but for me, I'm just going to say, I was like, okay, God, all this stuff that we're going through, really, what type of God will let us go through this stuff or have us in this place, you know, where we're struggling and we're going through this stuff. And it's not that I didn't believe. I've always had a relationship. We've always had a relationship. But we had gotten to the point, especially Claude, let me say this, because of the Katrina situation, and he's such a hard worker, he had totally indulged into work because he felt like, I don't ever want to have my family back into a situation, to where we're struggling or where we need and we can't have. So his main focus was work. Whereas for me, I was like, okay, I understand that, but what about me? Or what about us? And it's not that the family wasn't taken care of, but it was the emotional side that was not. And so then we started lacking in the spiritual side because now we're bickering and now he's working all the time and he's never home. And I didn't understand and he didn't understand, but we were steady going like this because I'm trying to tell him, look, the money ain't the issue. I don't care about the money. I need you to be here. He's like, look, I got to make sure we don't be back where we were because I don't want to be in a situation where we don't have a house or we don't have anywhere to live. I have to do this. But we weren't listening to each other. We were just going at each other like this, but the communication wasn't there. Right. And because of that, even with our spiritual connection, we really wasn't there. We were in a place that we worship, but we really wasn't in it for God. Like we were going because that was the motion. It was traditional. We was there because we knew that was the right thing to do. But it wasn't until we heard the voice of God, y'all, I promise to God. And God directed us. This started like last year or maybe a year and a half ago. And, he gave us the insight. It's time for you to move from this ministry. And we have been praying. Everything was starting to fall into place. Jobs, better jobs, steady income. Everything was starting to fall into place. And so we were at the point of saying, okay, now we need the spiritual side to come together. Correct. And the Lord directed us to this place. And when I tell you, it was like an awakening. The third point, awakening, right? It was an awakening, and we had finally got back in alignment with what God wanted from the very beginning. Correct. That same thing that attracted him to me, the same thing that was there all the time, was the same thing we had to come back to. Correct. And that spiritual foundation is key. Right. Number one, no matter what, it's God, family, and then a job. Period. God, family, and then your job and everything else. And so finally, everything else was starting to come back to play because we realized that even though we went to work every day and we did all these things, that wasn't most important. We had to first seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and everything else, the house, the cars, the money, everything else was going to be added because that was the principle that we were missing in that foundation.
And let me say this, y'all, which is real funny, because I went back and started looking at our vision boards. I noticed that we never wrote nothing spiritual on the vision boards, right? So everything that we monetarily that we wanted, we got, but we never had anything spiritual on our vision board. Right. And it wasn't until this year to where we really started paying attention to those things that are spiritual. And so then in March, all of a sudden, we're I lied to you not, y'all, we were laying in bed, and Bria had placed upon our heart to where we started doing Bible study. And those of you who know, I do what's called Coffee with Claude. We get our coffee and we just do a Bible study on Facebook. And so after this particular Sunday, we sat down after the Bible study, and we were in the room. And I promise you, there were things that was bottled up in Bria and myself that we were able to get closure on, and God healed us on those things that we have been fighting with for years, right? Yeah. Fighting with for years, and we finally got over that and finally got released from those things that was hindering us in bonding us. And I promise you, y'all, it was an emotional moment where we had the ugly cry. Y'all know that ugly cry? That ugly cry. And I'm talking about, and we came together, and I said spiritually, it was something that was so powerful and eye-opening, and we haven't been the same since. Yeah. Like, we have not. And we just want to implore to y'all to listen, man. Marriages, you go through some things in relationships. I mean, if you've been together with someone, your significant other, whether you are married or you've been together for a while, trust me, you will go through those things. And you may not have gone through what we've gone through. You may have not had that traumatic things that we went through. You may have had it worse. Some people have suffered with the loss of family members or children, and trying to get over those things.
Infidelity or
stuff like that, man. Like
anything.
Coming together for a common purpose and healing with one another. is so important, and I implore y'all, man, if anything that we say that can help y'all in your relationship, and understand that, guess what, man, all married couples, we gonna go through some stuff.
Absolutely.
I promise you, you're
Absolutely.
gonna go through it. If you haven't, you will. And when you do, how will you handle it? And just know that both you guys are strong enough to get through whatever it is that you're going through. I promise you are. And then you're going to find that place to where you guys can come together and say, man, babe, we did that.
Absolutely.
We did that thing. We did
Absolutely.
that thing.
And just know that although we've gone through these phases, right? So we talked about the dark place, we talked about the building the foundation, and we talked about the awakening. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to go in that order. That's the way it went for us within our 15 years.
Correct.
So we kind of took our blueprint and put it down to talk to y'all today. But it doesn't have to go in that order. You might start off your marriage and it's in bliss for the first 5 years, and
Yep.
you don't have anything, and then something may happen, and it changes. So all phases are different, and they occur at different times. It's how you handle them. It's how you overcome them. It's how you communicate with one another. It's how you talk to your partner and understand, this is how we're going to do this. These are the things that we're going to do to get over these things. And I promise you, if you do this, if you follow the blueprint, you can make it. Because I promise you, it's 15 years and counting. And I know I'm looking forward to another 15 years. Now, if I would have said this maybe a year ago, I promise you not.
You're like,
Probably the first year, probably not. I said a year ago, the first year. First year, probably not. I didn't even think I was going to be married throughout that year. But here it is. We're 15 years and counting, and we're still here. And we just want to encourage you. If you're in a relationship, if you're in a marriage, guess what? It's okay.
it's okay.
Life happens.
Y'all
Troubles
get through it.
happen.
You're strong. I'm telling you.
But you can
You're strong.
overcome it. You can do it. And we just want to encourage you guys today. And so...
Yeah, guys. Hey, listen. Thank y'all so much again for inviting us. We love y'all. Really appreciate it. Rick,
My
man,
coffee
y'all.
cold.
Mine's too. We thank y'all so much for letting us talk to you guys. Hey, also we're doing a true wind down. It's a magic group that we have on our Facebook page,
And it's open for
It's open for
everybody.
everybody. We're going to do our first launch on the 19th. It's
The 19th
Sunday.
at 6 o'clock.
At 6 o'clock, have your wine, have your stuff ready, because we're gonna have a good time. There's gonna be a lot of couples on there, and we're just gonna share some things and impart some things into people's life with all the couples. We all gonna have a great time, have some fun games, and we have a calendar that's gonna be coming out. So if y'all want to, please hit the Facebook page, The True Wind Down. It's on Facebook, and again, we love y'all, man.
Have a good day.